one preseason game into the 2026 WNBA season, and front office sports stirring it up. However, they're stirring it up on a topic I've talked about many times that I find very interesting considering the new CBA, and that is players playing in other leagues in the off season, and how I felt if the WNBA was going to thrive, they were going to take that next step as a professional sports league. They were going to need to eliminate that. No more of this off-season basketball crap where injuries pile up, whether it's just actual injuries from something that happens in the game, overuse injuries, which, we kind of saw a little bit with Kelsey Mitchell at the end of the season last year because of the amount of minutes she was having to play with all the injuries to her teammates. And yet, none of that was addressed in the new CBA. I promise you, NBA players are not starting unrivaled. I'm just saying. So let's get into this. And they specifically, it's very interesting because they specifically talk about two players, both interesting cases. So I'm curious what you all think about this as we dig in. Do me a favor before we get started, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it. Helps out tremendously. If you did subscribe, please make sure you're still subscribed because you've heard me say it before, YouTube is weird. Type button on mobile. Now, by the way, I just want to point out, it's kind of funny. I don't have it in front of me, but I knew the back of my mind, if you watch the Haley Van Lith video, and for those of you doing the comments are positive, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I like being able to do that. It was good to see her get some action and play well. And we'll see what kind of minutes she gets this year. Chicago's kind of, I don't want to say they're a title contender, but, relatively speaking, they're kind of a stacked team. And part of that is the guard position. So it'll be interesting to see how Haley Van Lith is. But for those of you who did watch it real quick, I mentioned it was sort of like a coming out party for Haley Van Lith in the WNBA. And, just kind of made it a silly joke into, hey, not that type of coming out party, even though I would understand your confusion in being the WNBA and all. And boy, was there an unhappy comment or two. Hey, you know what? Lighten up, Francis. It's okay to joke. It's okay to have a sense of humor. It's okay to be sarcastic or be tongue-in-cheek. Y'all never would have survived growing up in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Absolutely savage, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. So let's check this out. Because look, they specifically target Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham. It's interesting because it comes from two different angles when we think about it. We'll get into that. Reaffirm commitment for Project B. Despite CBA, when they're offering that type of money, plus the signing bonus, plus having equity in the company, it is a no-brainer, Cunningham said. Now, interestingly enough, we hadn't heard a whole lot about Project B after the initial announcements and signing some of the players like Kelsey Mitchell, like Sophie Cunningham. It was sort of like, hey, is this still going to happen? And then the CBA for the WNBA, it's like, well, what about Project B? Is that still a thing? It is a thing. Now, what's wild is Kelsey Mitchell just signed for the Super Max. She is making $1.4 million for one short season of the WNBA. And y'all know the whole lot of people in this country aren't going to see that kind of money in their career. And when I say career, I mean, 18 to 65, as opposed to April to October. And yet she's playing overseas in Project B. Now, Sophie Cunningham's really interesting because we know she's not happy with her contract. Yeah, she mentioned, it's the multi-year thing. She wanted that stability. She wanted to buy a house and all of that. But I also think it's the fact that it wasn't multi-year. Lexi Hull got a couple of years even. So Sophie Cunningham is like, hey, man, you didn't want to pay me. I'm going to go get my bag elsewhere. And guess what? If I get hurt over there and that affects here, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about that? So now, to be fair, I don't think what this is trying to frame it as when we get into this is that are they really focused on the WNBA season? Right? So Mitchell said earlier this week that it would take a drastic, unique situation for her to play overseas again after the WNBA's new CBA. Now, she also then said, well, this is different because this is a bunch of 2-week tournaments over time. It's not a consistent play through an entire season, right? I think there are breaks because we're going from November to April. I think so. It's about, depending on when in April, maybe 5-6 months, right? Let's say 5. So that's like, what, 21, 22, right? 21, 22 weeks. And they're doing 7, I think, 2-week tournaments. So that's 14 of the weeks in there in which they're playing. So there is a little bit of off time. So to be fair, it is a little different in that way. So she said, yeah, that's she's going to do. She said there's a big difference. And I think people recognize what that difference is. Project B gives you a chance to do both, go in and come out. Whereas with overseas basketball, you got to be over there 8 months or 7 months just to get everything you want. And she emphasized how she can return to the United States between tournaments, which again, to be fair, that is a little bit of a difference than what you get typically going and playing over in another league. But it is also still competitive basketball, and it covers pretty much the whole off season. Even though you have those short breaks in between the tournaments, you're still basically playing basketball from November to April. And then April is what? April is training camp. And then we go into the season, which is going to go from once the games start May through October, and then Project B in November. So, I don't understand. Maybe it was a non-starter. Maybe it was something that wasn't important enough for either side to talk about outside of the conversations they were having with each other. But it is shocking to me that the WNBA didn't make this more of a thing. Now, Cunningham said that when she and Mitchell signed with Project B, she wasn't sure if there would even be a 2026 season, right? Obviously, that's a big deal. When they're offering that type of money, plus the signing bonus, plus having equity in the company, it's a no-brainer. I have financially smart people around me, and they're like, you got to do it. Your body's got to suck it up. If you have smart people around you, fire them because they're not smart enough, because to phrase it that way is ridiculous. Hey, Sophie, go get your money, which, gets us paid as well because we're getting a percentage of that. It's okay if your body falls apart and your career ends prematurely because we want to get our cash. Yeah, that is the whole problem summed up right there, which is why, again, I don't understand the WNBA. I don't understand Kathy Engelbert, why they didn't make it more of a thing. Cunningham is joining USA Network as a WNBA analyst as well this coming season. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Is she doing it from home? When do they have the time off enough from games and practice and travel for her to go in studio? I'm not sure how that happens. She's got her own podcast. That should shut down for the season. Y'all need to understand something. Your basketball is your career. I don't mind endorsements and shooting commercials and all that stuff, but like, you wouldn't do this if you had what I'll call a regular job. Y'all need to focus a lot more on your basketball. But yeah, Mitchell signed for $1.4 million and still doing this is kind of weird, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out this coming season with Project B, with unrivaled, with any other overseas leagues, especially if there are injuries to big names that cost them the start of their 2027 season. And I'll end with this. Guaranteed contracts will, I think, become more of a thing, right? That'll be another one of the incentives. As there's more money to be spent on these players, you can finagle all these other little things to make better contracts, right? Kind of like Aaliyah Boston. No Supermax, but she's getting a hell of a lot of money guaranteed over 4 years than if she just signed a Supermax, which is, more per year, but there's no security. So then you can get like, hey, well, you could get 3 years of a guaranteed contract at $1 million, or we could give you, the max of super max of 1.4, but then there's no guarantee for the next year. Or, we can sign a 2-year deal at 1.2 million, but the second year isn't guaranteed, right? If you play through the first year, we're like, that wasn't worth it. that second year, we can cut you without consequence. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes with Project B. I'm curious what you all think about this. Smash the like button, subscribe. I do truly appreciate every single one of you, the 19. I will talk to you later.